Hi, it's Mark. Have you been hearing about net zero lately? We mostly hear about net zero in terms of the political rhetoric and the environmentalist rhetoric around climate change and making a difference to the planet, to save the planet from having too great a temperature rise. And the same week as COP26 that just happened, the sun threw off some unusual material energy extra that gave North Americans, certainly northern North Americans, extraordinary volumes of aurora borealis, or the northern lights, the electrical activity that comes when the sun gets a little excited in its cycle and more than usual. And I'm not a climate change denier. Don't get me wrong, but I think we look at the man-made, man-caused, mankind-caused, industrial activity-caused impact on our environment and our weather, and we must regard it as small when compared to the impact of the sun. And it's pretty easy to say, well, the sun's always been there. For 4.5 billion years or 6 billion or however long you believe the Earth's been around, a long time. The sun is a daily constant. We revolve around it because we're spinning at incredible speed. We're traveling through space at an incredible speed around this star, and the star and the galaxy, which part is also moving through space. So there's just a lot going on. And to say that the single cause, because I did something as a human, contributes is hard to fathom compared to 7.5 billion of us on this planet. So net zero has been in the news a lot lately, and I think it is impacting our life, as it has for about 20 years, as climate change noisemakers, people who are involved in the discussion about climate change, politicians and companies, have been moving and making progress. And it's far from ideal, but it's way more than we've ever done before. And we're only a couple of decades into these changes. So, have we yet seen the cumulative impact of the changes that have already been made? Maybe not enough in terms of the quality of the air, the quality of the waters in our rivers, the salinity of our oceans, or the acidity or the other chemical components of our oceans that are having an impact on all ecosystems. We haven't been around long enough to know how bad it is. And we also haven't been watching long enough for the cumulative impact of the good things we've done. We saw that in the early days of the pandemic, when suddenly activity around the world was slowed so substantially that news reports were reflecting that, fish were returning to where they hadn't been, or the color of a lake or a river was different. There were noticeable changes due to a reduced amount of human activity, which seems logical. And when you see a photograph of it, it seems magical. But I don't know the answer is or could be that we all would stop our activity, because we're in a robust economy in every country, whether that's to achieve more, build more, have more, or if it's for poor countries to get more, to be more self-sufficient, to have more reliable food supply or energy supply or whatever it is that they're in short supply of. And right now, short supply of vaccines is pretty prevalent. And I don't know if they're thinking that much about net zero when they're thinking about saving their population from rampant disease without vaccines. So we've got the ongoing rich and poor, right and wrong, qualitative arguments on both sides of the issue. But the consensus seems to be, finally, including China's even moving away from coal-fired power plants. But how fast are they moving? How fast will they move? And will they actually eradicate coal as the source of power, energy to burn, fossil fuels to burn, to run those power plants? And they're probably not going to go all the way to nuclear, but maybe that wouldn't be such a bad thing, because I think nuclear power plants, harnessing the kind of energy that the sun generates, nuclear fusion, hydrogen fusion, these things are all being worked on and experimented with, and every decade or so, somebody's got a great new idea. This is going to be the nirvana of energy, and then it's not. Pardon me. And a lot of countries are against nuclear, yet if you look at nuclear today around the world, the cost of the power is extremely low, and the environmental impact of nuclear power is extremely tiny. So I think that needs a better look, a further look, as we evolve as a society to have better energy. But let's also talk about net zero in a different context. Sorry for the long preamble. I'm getting to my point eventually. Some people say I take too long to get there, but this climate change issue and COP26 has been on everybody's mind and in everybody's headlines recently. So here we are, net zero. What do I mean when I talk about net zero? I guess if net zero is like an equilibrium, and we're either better than or worse than this net zero, I'm thinking in terms of our well-being as humans, as people, as individuals and as a group, as groups versus a community, and communities versus a society. Where are we at in Canada in terms of our attitude about energy, about climate, about anything? Are we net zero? Are we highly positive? Are we ridiculously negative? Because I think as we go as a society, as we go as a province or as a country or a city, so goes the rest of us. We can be trendsetters in terms of our positive attitude for change, whether that's climate change or treating our neighbors and our fellow citizens better or not. And I think we've got some divisive factors going on right now, and some of them are indeed tied to climate change. Some of them are tied to COVID-19 and vaccines, and some of them are tied to just good old-fashioned retail backbiting, backstabbing politics. Mix them all together, and I don't think we're at net zero. I think we're on the negative side of that. We have energy to burn in this country, and we have people saying keep it in the ground. In terms of coal, unless it's the coal you make steel from, that argument's been won. Everybody's keeping that coal in the ground, and no one's using it for power plants anymore. But we have a tremendous resource in coal. So where is the research? Where's the innovation on the gasification of coal? The Chinese have been working on it for decades, Canadians not so much. But when you consider China and Canada are the largest warehouses of coal in the ground on the planet. And it's a great source of energy. It's a fossil fuel. And we don't want to burn dirty coal. But we're happy to burn natural gas. And natural gas burns very cleanly. So if we can convert the coal to natural gas or to methane that burns without emissions, there's a tremendous resource for cheap energy in the future there. And if I'm talking about that, you might say, well, maybe we should have nuclear because nuclear doesn't, low cost and doesn't have the waste. But then nuclear has the angst, right? And we can fight about should we have it or should we not have it. But Ontario, with lots of nuclear power plants, they're not building any new ones, but maybe they should, have some very economical energy. The rest of the country doesn't. Why does Quebec who import oil from Venezuela and from Saudi Arabia and other Middle Eastern countries not want more oil from Canada, more oil from Alberta? Oh, because they don't want a pipeline going through their province, even if it just delivers oil to them. They want to stop pipelines. So I think they're talking out of both sides of their mouth at the same time. I don't see a net zero in that. I see negativity. I see the opposite of national cooperation amongst provinces. In Alberta, we don't stop BC from selling lumber. We don't stop Saskatchewan from selling wheat, Nova Scotia from selling fish, Newfoundland from iron ore or power. We have no quarrel with our fellow provinces in terms of using their natural resources and their skills. And I think that kind of cooperation will take us to the positive side of the net zero. And I think on a human level, we've had enough stress from COVID. It would be nice to get 10 premiers, the territorial leader and the prime minister all on the same page with their officials as to what's the state of affairs, what's the truth they're all telling us, what are the measures we're all taking, and take those measures as a country. When it comes to opening or closing a border, we seem to do things as a country, but otherwise we seem to do things in a very sporadic way, industry versus industry, aviation flights. Well, you can fly to the United States, you can't drive there. Well, shortly that border is going to be open in the good old fashioned way again, and that's both exciting for those who need and want it, and I think a bit worrying for people like me who see, well, the statistics in the US, as much as they're vaccinating a lot of people, they've also got a lot of anti-vaxxers or low vaccination rates and high caseloads for COVID-19 in states like Montana and Idaho, close to me. Do I want a lot of cross-border traffic? I want net zero, but the big zero I want is I don't want to get it. But yet I don't want it to interfere with my livelihood. This is a bit of a rant for me, and also maybe just sort of spilling out some things that are on my mind on a Saturday morning. I hope wherever you are or whenever you're listening to this, that I don't sound like a crazy person. I think these are real issues that are on the mind of a lot of people who aren't talking about them. We get distracted by, the leadership issues in Alberta right now. Premier Kenney is fighting what appears to be a losing battle to keep his party together and to keep himself at the helm of it. And Brian Jean shortly will be likely nominated for a by-election, beginning a seat in the House, and the caucus is divided and a cabinet minister resigned. It wasn't a good week for the premier when he's trying to play distraction politics with good news the same week that COP26 is going on. So there's a lot of distraction, and a lot of it's landing on the premier's shoes. So things are not net zero for Jason Kenney. He's in significant difficulty. And yet our prime minister, with a minority mandate, is off at COP26 making promises he may not be able to keep in terms of what he can get his country to do with the minority government. Can he actually deliver? And will it be of any great effect around the world? Are these folks just all getting on jets to fly to COP26 to talk about the overuse of energy and fly home again? It's a strange time to be on the sidelines, and I'm sure it's an equally strange time to be at the center of these controversies, in the center of the decision-making. Which brings us back, or brings me back to this net zero concept. How do we live our lives? I can't control provincial or national leadership or international geopolitics. I can control what I do. I can control the food that goes in my mouth, the amount of waste I send to the landfill, to the dump, and to the recycling, and how I manage that. My footprint has been getting smaller year after year after year. And driving an old used vehicle, I'm keeping it out of the landfill. And that is a good thing. because if we make less, waste less, dispose of less, recycle more, we're making a contribution. And one person's actions are not going to solve the problem. But as we saw when the pandemic forced us to sort of come to gridlock and stop almost everything for a while, we saw, oh, this climate, this planet does have a self-cleaning element to it. We get better as a planet when we tinker with it less, when we do less, when we put less up the smokestack in the factory. So what we're burning in terms of energy and the type of energy we're burning, that should be a burning question for all of us, not just the leaders at COP26. We should vote with our feet when there's an election. We should vote with our feet in terms of who we should do business with or not. And lately, almost every day, there's a new announcement by someone in the corporate Canada or corporate US, the big companies, the big organizations, the big pension funds, of how they're not going to invest in fossil fuels and they're not going to do this and they're not going to do that. And they're going to, renewables are the thing. We're going to carpet the world in solar panels. And of course, the manufacturer of solar panels won't contribute to pollution or anything. We can't make the chips fast enough to put into computers and cars and batteries and cell phones. And now we have to pockmark the earth with new mines for rare earth minerals. It's a almost vicious circle of doing damage to do good. Again, are we at a net zero? The net zero being referred to in the news and in politics is about graphs, about energy consumption and how much is renewable and how much is not renewable. Every one of us every day can renew ourselves. We can renew our thinking. We can keep positive about making a contribution. But we have to first make the contribution. And that means tightening our belt on some things, spending less on some things, being more thoughtful in the products we choose, being more thoughtful what we throw in the trash. Well, if we're more thoughtful what we throw in the trash, the front end of that is being more thoughtful what we buy, how much we buy, what's it made of, how harmful to the environment is it. So I think it'd be far better to have a label on a product confirming to me that it was made in Canada, grown in Canada, processed in Canada. And maybe some kind of rating system as to its impact on the environment. So if it's a product that has a negative impact on the environment, maybe truth in packaging, maybe our government should be forcing people to put a label disclosing how much energy went into that, or how, on a grading system, or whether that gets 5 stars or 0 stars in terms of whether or not it's environmentally friendly. It may not change everybody's purchasing habits, but it might change some. I know I read labels for sodium content, something I learned to do in the last few years of my dad's life when I was buying his groceries for him. I don't buy packaged foods without looking at the sodium content. If I bought packaged foods of any kind or fresh produce and there was a country of origin label and a indicator of whether or not that was net zero. Was that a net zero can of soup? Was that a net zero package of frozen pizza or lasagna or whatever, or cheese or any of the other things that get processed? I want to know if it's in Canada. I think that's a positive. I want to know that it's environmentally friendly relative to its peer products. I want to know more and make a better informed choice, because I want to be above the net zero. I want to be positive in attitude. I want to be positive in actions. And I want to be positive about making a difference. And if I can't tell the difference between product A and product B as to which one is good for the earth and which one is bad for the earth, which one is good for me, which one is bad for me, then just the odds are I'm going to respond to the glitziest advertising like everybody else. Net zero is a term that is almost meaningless because it has a different meaning, I think, to everyone and in every field. But I want to wrap up this video by reminding you that the choices you make are yours. I think it would be better if our governments and regulators said, put a label on the car, on the pound of cheese or the liter of milk or the package of pizza. Show me a measurement of where that fits in. If I'm going to buy pizza in a box in a grocery store, fine. I'm going to buy frozen pizza. Show me some measurement that's fair and objective as to which one is better for the environment or not. I might still buy the one that's the lowest price or got the best advertising or experience has taught me tastes the best. I might do that. But if I don't have an option to choose which one's healthier for the environment, for the earth, for climate change, if I don't have some measurement tool, how do I know? It's just guessing. But if I have a measurement tool, if there is some labeling, I hearken back to when my children were young and they persuaded me to buy the dolphin-friendly tuna, Dad, because it's good for the dolphins and it's good for the oceans. It was a way of knowing. So we bought the dolphin-friendly tuna. I don't know if it was better tuna or tasted better or was more economical, but we wanted to make a difference. And I think when people are given an opportunity, whether it's taking an airplane trip or going to a movie or buying a tomato, if they have a choice of buying the one that's better for the planet and the one that's not, and there's some sort of objective measurement vehicle, we'll not only achieve net zero, we'll achieve net positive. I really am wrapping up. Have a great day. I'm Mark Kolke. Enjoy your day and be green.